What's up, everyone? Welcome to The Point. I'm your host, Ana Kasparian, and it feels so good to be back from our Thanksgiving break. 2 weeks ago, we did a double-decker show, so you've had plenty of content to watch, but we have new and improved videos for you this week, and I can't wait to get to the topics. We're going to talk about the GOP staffer who got into a lot of trouble after she had some negative things to say about the Obama daughters. Also, U.S. Airways kicks off a disruptive pig. No, it was not Glenn Beck or Rush Limbaugh. I'll tell you exactly who or what it was. Also, a cop allegedly shot a female driver in a fit of road rage. 2 Indian women had to fight off harassers on a bus, and no one helped them out. And finally, we're going to end the show by talking about an LA dominatrix who's doing what she can to whip you into shape. But before we get to all of that, let's go ahead and meet our panelists for today. We have 2 returning panelists that I absolutely love. Hank Chen, he is a comedian and an actor who's currently on Transparent on Amazon and just appeared in an episode of Criminal Minds. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. So good to be back.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun.
Oh, it's so much fun.
We also have Andy Riesmeyer. You guys remember him. He is a host and executive producer of Dweebcast on Aura TV.
I don't remember what it is either.
Every once in a while, I get a little stuttery.
Yeah.
It's okay. As long as,
well, I'm really excited.
Well, he's an executive producer, so you got that correct. As long as you remember that,
Yeah.
we're all good.
Very true. All right, so let's get to the very first topic. I love this topic because it shows you that in some cases, adults act like absolute children. Now, a GOP staffer, in fact, the communications director for a representative in Tennessee by the name of Stephen Fincher, just put her foot in her mouth after she put up a Facebook post basically disparaging Obama's daughters, okay, Sasha and Malia. Now, Sasha and Malia did not ask to be part of the White House or the First Family, but nonetheless, every once in a while, they have to attend White House events, like the annual turkey pardon, which I find absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe we do that. But nonetheless, they attended the turkey pardon. They were dressed extremely modestly, and they didn't look like they were having all the fun in the world, but Elizabeth Lawton, who is this communications director, took to Facebook to say some pretty nasty things about the girls. Here is her exact statement. Dear Sasha and Malia, I get you're both in those awful teen years, but you're a part of the First Family. Try showing a little class. At least respect the part you play. Then again, your mother and father don't respect their positions very much, or the nation for that matter. So I'm guessing you're coming up a little short in the, quote, good role model department. Nevertheless, stretch yourself. That's a really weird phrase. Rise to the occasion. Act like being in the White House matters to you. Dress like you deserve respect, not a spot at the bar. And certainly don't make faces during televised public events. Now, 3 days after she posted that, she actually went on NBC, to let everyone know that she is in the process of resigning. So she was forced to resign, obviously. And what amazes me about this story is that she's a communications director. As a communications director, she thought that it was totally okay to attack young girls on her Facebook account. I mean, I think it's pathetic, but I want to know what you guys think. Hank, let me start with you. Make your point.
I think all of her grammatical errors is reason alone, reason enough to let her go. Did you see that run-on sentence? It was like on and on and on. And in fact, I have a theory that the Republican Party is masking this as like, oh, we actually agree with you and you're fine, but we're going to scapegoat you and get you out because you're actually a shitty writer. So
that could be it.
I don't think that they have a Sasha Malia issue. I think they have a communications issue problem with her.
I mean, when you think about all of the different stupid things that have been said during debates in Congress, I mean, this isn't the first time a Republican or even a Democrat has said something incredibly stupid.
Foot-and-mouth syndrome.
Absolutely.
Totally.
And it's kind of rare to see someone pay the consequences for it, and I'm glad that it happened in this case, because as a communications director, you need to be smarter than that.
Yeah.
Andy, what about you? Make your point.
First of all, on behalf of turkeys everywhere, I would like to express my regret and sorrow that you would not view the presidential pardon as something that would be so important to our history. I guess we'll get past that, though. The thing that I think is most sort of fascinating about this is that, indeed, she's a communications director, so you would think that someone like that would have the wherewithal to know that posting something, I mean, really just stupid, would get her in a lot of trouble. Also, for the rest of her life now, when she is Googled, when someone wants to hire her for a job, it's going to be this piece of stupid vitriol, this blooting that she has done, that everyone will see and everyone will always tie back to her.
I also believe that if you live in a glass house, you shouldn't throw stones. When she was a teenager, she was arrested for shoplifting, okay? None of us would be talking about that if she wasn't a terrible person and decided to attack Barack Obama's daughters on Facebook. Now, here's a question for the story. What's the most classless thing you've ever done? Because look, we're not so innocent. We've done some classless things as well, unless you guys are gonna lie to me and tell me that you haven't. Andy, let me start with you.
I absolutely will lie to you and tell you that I haven't. I mean, I've been on this show enough times that's like, I've told you a lot of classless things that I have done.
Have you?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think I'm that guarded. I mean,
what have you done that's classless?
I really try not to do classless things in the public eye, and I'm going to try to continue to not put something out there so when people Google me, they will find out the horrible classless things that I've done. But I'm a tweet deleter. And so I'll like write something, maybe in a fit of rage, and I think this woman maybe has missed that part of maybe all of us, and then you'll say like, oh shit, I gotta get rid of that.
Yep.
There's no way. So
she left it up for a while. She wanted all those likes, and she got hundreds.
She definitely
got
did.
a lot of support.
Hank, give me some dirt on yourself. What's the most classless thing you've done?
When I was in college, I waited tables, and oftentimes, because the shifts were so long and we were treated so horribly, I would eat leftovers off the plate.
that's a good one.
I would totally
hungry.
end up doing that. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I know people that work in the restaurant industry, and that actually happens more often than not. They don't want to waste food.
But I also would like in my own mind, and I would like section off the parts that haven't been touched.
Yeah.
But I would hide it. People would be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh my God, no, nothing." But yeah, I would.
Yeah.
That's what I did to get through.
I mean, if you want examples of me being classless, I would watch the members-only post-game show of the Young Turks, okay? Because that's for our members, and that's when we get really personal and we talk about things that we probably shouldn't talk about. It gets even more racy than this show does. And I've talked about like things I've seen in porn, which I've talked about in this show, but I think I get a little more detailed with the post-game show. I would say the least classy characteristic I have is my language. I have a really foul mouth, and I don't care who I'm talking to or where I am. I will throw out the F-bombs. Every once in a while, in a fit of road rage, I will say things like, "You stupid cunt."
Wow.
Not the nicest thing to say. So those are my classless moments. But every once in a while, I'll look back at a video I've done for the Young Turks, and I'll be like, not so classy, right? So we did a story about about Will Smith's kids, and how they did that crazy interview where they sounded so sophisticated for like 10-year-olds, right? And we were just kind of making fun of them a little bit.
Well, they sound like they were from the moon. Is
Yeah.
where they sound. They don't live on Earth.
At the end of the day,
that was the issue,
day, they're kids, and I remember being a teenager and I thought I knew it all,
Right.
so I should have just given them a pass and not poke fun of them at all. But
Right.
those are my classless moments. But we want to hear from you. What is the least classiest thing you've done? Share in the comment section below. If we really, really like your comment, we will share it with our audience in a video we do every month where we respond and engage with our audience. I hope you guys enjoyed this story, and we'll see you guys soon. U.S. Airways recently threw a pig off one of their flights. It wasn't Rush Limbaugh, wasn't Glenn Beck. It was a literal pot-bellied pig that one woman utilized for emotional support. This is kind of amazing. It was a 70-pound pig, and apparently the woman that you see in the picture there was flying to Washington on Wednesday. The flight crew booted the woman and the pig from the plane before it left off or flew off because the animal was squealing. It was disruptive, and also it defecated in an aisle, and people weren't too pleased about that. So if you're wondering what the rules are when it comes to having emotional support animals on a plane with you, back in 2012, this is a very recent law, federal rules indicated that pets that are utilized for emotional support are allowed. However, the crew can decide whether or not the animal is too disruptive and kick the animal off the plane, which is what they did in this case. You can have monkeys, cats, and even miniature horses on a flight with you if you need them for emotional support. Okay. I love this. I don't even know what to say. I want to start off with you, Andy. Maybe you'll trigger something in my head.
Okay.
Make your point.
Well, I think we should take a moment and all revel in the fact that at this point in our world, the phrase emotional support pig is something that we can say and actually link it to something that actually happened in real life. I can only imagine what it must have been like for someone who was sitting in that plane and looked over and saw indeed something that maybe he or she would have eaten potentially for breakfast, sitting next to him or her in the seat next to it. I think it's just really wonderful for them, and I don't know how long their flight was or where they were going, but mean, that would have been horrible, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I would react to it. I mean, I would be polite, but I feel like you already sit next to really awkward people on a flight anyway, and there's barely any room in the seat. So if I'm sitting next to a woman and her pig, I'm just gonna ban all travel from that point forward.
I think it's
Hank, what about you? Make your point.
Ooh, I think the only winners in this story is us. Just the audience. This is an emotional support pig that traumatized everyone involved, right? Like, everyone on that plane was traumatized, the airline's traumatized, the woman who brought the pig on for emotional support is traumatized because she got kicked off. This is
supporting no one
this
emotionally.
This is good shit, is all I have to say. And I also, there better be a follow-up story. How many animals is she gonna bring the next time she flies? Will she ever fly again? Like, there needs to be a documentary made, and I'm gonna watch it on Netflix when it comes out, because this is interesting.
I would like to see a documentary on this.
Yeah,
Look,
yeah.
I understand that people suffer from serious emotional distress when they're flying, anxiety, and having a pet to help you out makes all the sense in the world to me. A monkey, cool. A dog, cool. A cat, cool. A hamster, I don't know, whatever, right? But miniature horses? I mean, where do you draw the line? I will say, I would rather have a defecating pig on the flight than a few babies that are crying constantly while I'm flying cross country. Like, that's a little worse.
You'd rather have a literal pig in shit on a plane than
if
3 crying little humans.
I'm not gonna rub my face in the shit, right? Like,
it's a recirculated air. You're just sitting there breathing it the whole flight. It's like, oh.
But people fart on planes.
They
too.
do, and they love it. They
do.
I've just been traveling a lot.
No one can hear you.
You're right.
Right? The engine's so loud, you just let it all out.
Why is it just the most appropriate place to publicly fart?
Because no one can hear you.
But we're all in this encapsulated tube going 500 miles an hour. Can't you just wait until Cleveland?
I think we know who passes gas on a flight and who doesn't. Andy does not. Okay, so let's move forward. Here's the question for the story. Do you have any irrational fears, Andy?
Well, now my irrational fear is that I
Sitting
will,
next to Anna on a plane.
Right. Well, that absolutely, but also that I'll be like in check-in, you know, like putting my bag and like getting my boarding pass, and there's like a woman next to me with a miniature horse, and it's like, well, fuck, like I'm gonna be on that flight, I guarantee it, you know. There's my irrational fear.
Well,
Lord have mercy.
Hank, what about you?
Have the horse kick you in the face with a hoof. My irrational fear also has to do with travel, and it is that I will drive off of a cliff into water and then get like Susan Smith's kids, you know, and like drown in that. So it's kind of morbid. It's kind of dark. And I have to tell you, I tend to like to not drive around like mountains or scenic roads at night. And when I was driving cross country a few times last year when I was moving to Los Angeles, I like made a detour, and the next thing I knew, I was on Route 66, and it was like 9 o'clock at night, and I was like, "Oh my God!" Like, you know what Route 66 is like, right?
Yes.
There's no railing. It's boulders to let you know this is the edge. This is the edge. Don't.
I know.
It was
really scary.
It was the scariest drive. I mean, I was 30 miles an hour trying to maneuver that. I was like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die.
It's funny because I think that's one of my rational fears. Because when I drove to Kern County a few years ago for a rafting trip.
That's a rational fear too.
I went.
Just Kern County in general.
Well, Kern County is
really
actually
scary.
surprisingly endearing, charming, and fun. They have a beautiful river there.
Sorry, Kern
As her voice goes up 2 octaves, but yeah, you go with it. Yeah.
But I was driving in the dark, and because I went after work, and there's like this one portion of the road where it turns into a cliff, basically. And there was a sign there that told you how many people had died because of the fact that they drove off the cliff. No railing, and it was a very narrow road on the side of a cliff. I was mortified, right? But thankfully we made it. And as I was driving, by the way, I should note, a critter, I don't know what kind of critter it was, just randomly jumped out on the road, and I was like, what am I gonna do? Do I run over the critter? Do I swerve? But
Thankfully you ran it over.
Thankfully I braked before it was too late. All right, really quickly, my irrational fear is failure, right? I'm worried that this is it, that this is as good as life is gonna get, and I want more.
With us? Oh my God.
That'd be pretty awful. That'd be bad. That'd be bad.
No, I want my career to move forward.
This is not it. Yeah.
You know, I want to I'm like madly in love, but I hope we get married one day. I guess being stagnant. I'm afraid of being stagnant. So that's my irrational
She's
fear.
like a shark. Gotta move forward or she's gonna die.
Is that what sharks are?
Yeah, because they have the gills. You have to move. They have to move forward, otherwise
You
they'll die.
guys learn something new every time
day.
you watch this show. Anyway, you guys need to tell me what your irrational fears are. I want to know about them, so share in the comments section below. And you know what's going to happen, right? We're going to see your asses soon. And the police brutality continues. This time the story is out of Texas, where a 20-year-old woman who is unidentified claims that in a fit of road rage, a cop literally pulled out a gun and attempted to gun her down. Now, she says that she was driving in Texas and all of a sudden, Kenneth Kaplan, a reserve duty officer with Harris County Precinct 6, was cutting her off. And so she honked, she got really annoyed with him, and then she cut him off. That is when she claims that the cop pulled out a gun. So let me give you her exact words of what allegedly happened. All of a sudden, I'm driving and this guy cuts me off. He was about to hit me. I switched to the other lane. I got in front of him and I cut him off. I guess that pissed him off. He went like that and he just fired at me. And then all of a sudden, I heard a ring in my ear. I was like, oh my God, he just shot me. I was applying pressure to my head because it wouldn't stop bleeding. I'm gonna die in my car on 610. 610 was the highway that she was on. Now, this doesn't even really faze me because we do stories like this on a regular basis. This was one of the stories I had in my rundown for the Young Turks, and we didn't even get to it because we had too many other police brutality stories to report on. So regardless of what you feel about what happened in Ferguson, one thing that I think we can all agree on is that there's an issue with the culture in our local police departments, and we have to change the excessive force that's being utilized against citizens in this country. Now, I've made my point. I want to hear from you guys. Hank, make your point.
Well, unfortunately, I feel for the guy because there have been plenty of people that I want to shoot when I'm driving. However, the lesson here is I don't.
Right.
That's the lesson. You got to be an adult here. You were given a driver's license and you own a car.
Yeah.
Don't kill people while you're driving. People, listen, we live in LA. People are going to cut you off. You're going to cut other people off. Misunderstandings are going to happen.
All the time.
Guess what? You let it go. Let it go, okay? So it is true irony that he is also like a public servant, right?
Yep.
What is it? What is their police slogan? Is serve, protect, respect,
To protect
all
and
that?
serve,
Yeah.
but apparently that's not what all of them are all about. I think that it's a power grab, and I think that some of them get drunk off their own power, which sucks to say because I know cops personally that I absolutely love, and they're good people who do want to protect and serve. But it's cops like this that give all other police officers a bad name, especially when the other cops don't stand up against this type of behavior. Andy, what about you? Make your point.
I think the reason that nobody stands up to this kind of behavior is because it's so ingrained in the culture of sort of excessive force that there are not these opportunities for people to actually take a step back and say, look, this is ridiculous. Like, let's stop doing this. Yeah. The other thing with this guy is like, he wasn't really acting in his police capacity. He just also happened to be a police officer. And you know, we always talk about correlation is not causation and that whole thing. Little Kim Horcher reference there. I don't know, she says that a lot. Or she said it once. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But
2 to 3 times.
she's been known to say things. So, I mean, I could attribute it to her.
Right.
But I think that, like, you know, he also is just an asshole. And, you know, notwithstanding that there's been other people who have taken out guns and tried to shoot each other over road rage incidents too, you know, and I don't think that we, you know, I think it's very easy to blame all of the sort of like cop mentality or blame this on sort of like the culture of violence and excessive force in the police department, but I think it really is a bigger thing, which is just people feeling like, and maybe because he's a cop, he thinks he can get away with it,
right.
But people feeling like this is the way to solve a situation by just like pulling out a gun and shooting someone from cutting you off.
I mean, it's unbelievable. We apparently have a hard time controlling our own emotions these days. So here's the question. Have you ever had a positive, not a negative, a positive run-in with a cop? We want to hear about it. I know I have, so I want to share that story. Andy, let me start with you.
Well, you know I was arrested. For DUI, falsely imprisoned for 14 hours. That was a not positive experience, but I have, you know, in working in journalism and things like that, experienced a lot of interactions with cops where I am not the problem, you know what I mean? And I'm the person who is there basically to just get information. And so from that regard, you know, if you're coming into a situation as a reporter or as like a news gatherer, you're going to definitely have a different sort of interaction than if you're there because there's a cop responding to you doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of the university police that I knew, were actually really great.
Yeah.
A lot of the smaller town Indiana police that I knew also, who were basically just like my loser friends in high school, you know what I mean? Who eventually went on to be police officers. Scott Brown.
All right. Hank, what about you?
Boy, such aspirations. I would agree. In like a professional capacity, when you're working events, or if you're in a situation where you have to work with police officers, they've been really polite. But one story sticks out of my mind, and this was in New York. I was in Times Square, and literally two vendors, like it was like the guys who like sell the New York City tour, like one of those guys, and then like another vendor, like all of a sudden we're like yelling and cussing at each other in the street. And this was like, one was like Nigerian, so the other guy was calling him all kinds of names. The other person was like, I would kill you if you were in my country. Like we were screaming. They were like getting into each other's faces. I immediately was like, oh, saw a cop car, because cops are all over Times Square. These guys were idiots. I knock on the window, and it was two female cops, and they were in there like reading their like New York Post, and they just rolled down the window, bored. And I was like, hi, I'm sorry to bother you, but there's two guys that are fighting on the street. You might want to come and intervene. Immediately, paper on the floor. They got out. Next thing you know, these two like kind of petite girls, but fully in uniform. Hey, what's going on? Get over here. Are you kidding me right now? Like just started screaming and yelling and like broke these guys up.
Oh, nice.
I was like, oh.
I mean, that situation could have really escalated, so I'm glad that they diffused it, even though it sounded like they did it in like, yeah.
At least there was no
It was great. It was great.
Or anything like that.
Yeah.
But can you imagine just Taurus and like Elmo and Superwoman? Like we're all just like watching this go down. And it was Times Square.
Times Square is a clusterfuck.
Shit show.
Yeah, it sounds crazy.
Shit show.
I've had so many positive run-ins with cops. I have had negative run-ins, which I've shared on the show before, but I have gotten away with speeding more times than I'd like to admit, okay? Officer Cardoza.
Wherever you are.
Anyway, tell us if you guys have had a good or bad run-in with a cop. We want to hear your stories. Comment in the section below, and we'll see you guys soon. A viral video is going around on the internet featuring two Indian women fighting off harassers on a bus. Now, we have done numerous stories about sexual harassment and rape in India. It's a really big problem that has yet to be addressed. And in this video, you can see that it continues to be a problem, but these women fought back. Take a look. I mean, it's unbelievable that that video shows you what's really happening, because as you can see, these two women are trying to fight off these harassers that are trying to sexually assault them, and the driver, conductor, and co-passengers just sat by and allowed it to happen. If that wasn't bad enough, they were trying to dissuade the women or the girls from going to the authorities and reporting these guys, but thankfully they didn't listen. They did report them, and as a result, the three men have been sent to jail for a week. And the two sisters will be given a cash reward by the city, okay? But this is just a symptom of a much larger problem that you're seeing in India. I want you guys to chime in. Andy, make your point.
Well, this is a place where eve teasing is what it's called, is very common in India, which is basically like a kind of cute way to say sexual harassment. I mean, it's also a culture where marital rape is accepted and just not even thought of as a wrong thing. And I think that in order for this kind of thing to stop, which clearly it needs to, is that you, as a victim or as someone who is being harassed like this, I think that it's great that they fought back, and it's going to take more people to continue to stand up to the aggressors and the bullies, but more so a much larger pressure, I think, from everyone else in the developing and developed world to really say, like, look, we're done with this. We're not going to have any more of this, because
I
it's
love
just,
it. You have to fight
it's
back.
horrible. Yeah, you have to.
Fight back. Hank, what about you?
It's very disturbing to see that, because you read these stories, and words on paper are not the same as seeing it actually happening. I will say that I am concerned for their safety. I mean, as lame as we think the comments were about, oh, don't fight back, don't report, they might throw acid on your face. These are honestly very legitimate concerns. You know, these guys were in jail a week. That's a week to get stewed up, to get pissed off. If they're low class, they might come after these girls.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
fight
I
back.
think they're
I'm worried.
dangerous. If they're willing to be that open about sexually assaulting or harassing people on a bus in public, yeah. I mean, who knows what else they're capable of doing, right?
I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the solution is. I'm just glad that we are bringing light to it as well as the rest of this country.
Absolutely. Now, have you ever stood up for a friend in public, or has someone stood up for you in public? I want to start off with you, Andy.
Man, you know, no. I mean, it's like I think that it's part of just the privilege that I've experienced growing up. You know, I mean, twofold. One, that, you know, I grew up really in a conflict-free kind of place, and then transitioned into journalism where it was like inappropriate for me to really take any kind of stand or try to have any sort of action in something that was more than just like a personal, you know, experience. But I think that, you know, one of the hallmarks of at least the Midwestern culture is sort of to just like push things under the rug and to try to like hide things. And I think it's a carryover of like the waspy sort of tradition that, you know, a lot of, I think, dictates a lot of sort of like the societal and cultural norms of like the East Coast, and also the old East Coast, you know, like old money East Coast, and also a lot of the Midwest, which is like, let's just try to pretend like this doesn't happen and let's move on to the next thing. And I think that that's a shame. That's bad. You know, I think there's only so much that you can bottle up and compartmentalize until it, you know, rears its ugly head. So unfortunately.
At least you're aware of it, though, and you can take steps to change it, which is a good thing.
Yeah, well, there you go.
All right, Hank?
Yeah, I feel like I mentioned earlier on the show once how when I was in New York, I stood up in a bakery, in this Chinese bakery. This guy was being super ghetto and was screaming and yelling at everyone, and I put him in his place in front of everybody. But something that more vividly stands out as someone who stood up for me was when I was in 9th grade, and pretty much as much personality as what you see before you today. You know, some bullies were, you know, calling me a fag and gay or whatever, and my friend at the time, you know, just buddy at the time, who turns out he's also gay now, you know, 10 years later, he just stood, was like, why don't you leave him alone and stop like picking on him? And then the guy sort of was taken aback, but then next thing you know, started going after him, was like, oh, well, clearly you're sucking each other's dicks and blah, blah, blah. And it was very uncomfortable. And to be in 9th grade, and like, it was nice to like have someone stand up for you, and then to have you both get picked on.
Yeah.
So I actually did the thing that these pastors, I was like, hey man, thanks so much for saying something, but like maybe like don't worry about it, because now they're talking about how we suck each other's dicks, and I don't want people to talk about that. And I think that hurt his feelings. And so I kind of wish that if I could go back in time to let him know how much I appreciated that.
Well, you're letting him know now.
VJ, thank you so much.
In a very
thank
public
you, VJ.
way.
Yeah. So.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's
You could
great.
take an opportunity also to stand up to all of the YouTube commenters who say horrible, many times, vitriolic garbage, you know. And I think a lot of people think they can hide behind the anonymity of it. And it's like, we do read that. We do know it. We do see it. I mean, if someone tweets me to like kill myself, it's like, I read that. I know that you're saying that. I'm a human being, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that like it goes with everything, where it's just like we're living in this sort of shrouded kind of like pretend.
Protective.
Well, yeah, and you're not going to stop it unless you combat it head on.
Yeah.
You know?
Speaking of which, sorry, one last 20 seconds. People either love me or hate me on this show, Anna. I don't know if you really, but usually, but the funny thing is, when they like me, it's always like, Hank is so funny. When they hate me, chink fag needs to die. And I'm like, whoa.
Look, you know what? I would rather take that over what I have, which is people usually hate me, and then every once in a while there's like a few people sprinkled in where they're like, Anna's actually not that bad, right? So big ups to you guys for not thinking I'm that bad. You guys are the ones who are standing up for me, and I absolutely freaking love you. And actually, you know what? Now that we kind of veered in that direction, I really do want to thank the audience members that have been so freaking supportive, not just of this show, but my career from the very moment that I started at TYT. I appreciate you guys so much. You are the reason why I'm able to continue doing what I'm doing, especially considering all the hatred and dirty, terrible comments that people have in regard to me and what I do. I love you guys. You guys mean the world to me. So with that said,
nice. I feel like we should.
Yes, to you.
So with that said, please go ahead and share your stories with me. Has anyone ever stood up for you, or have you stood up for anyone else? And what do you make of this story of the 2 Indian women? Please chime in. We love hearing from you guys, and we'll see you soon. People are always looking for new and exciting ways to stay into shape. I mean, think about it. Running on a treadmill or doing the elliptical for an hour every day sounds freaking terrible. But there's one dominatrix in LA who thought that she could use her passion of being a dominant individual by literally whipping people into shape, okay? Her name is Snow Mercy, and she holds classes known as fetish fitness classes, and she exercises her power over a group of students. She says it's a genuine fitness class, and it's designed to increase endurance, agility, and stamina. Okay, so let's cut to the video. I can't believe we have a video for
There's
this.
a dominatrix in LA whose weekly fetish fitness class is all about humiliation.
Stand up. All of you are here to compete. Do you understand that?
Yes, mistress.
Do you understand that?
Yes, mistress.
Much better. Is that gum in your fucking face?
Yeah,
Yeah, what?
it's gum.
Get down on the floor.
Those people were probably actors and actresses, but nonetheless, that promotional video was hilarious, and also it dissuaded me from ever trying that. Now, the only thing that I want to say is I'm open-minded. I don't judge people who are into that. I mean, people get turned on by different things. But that looked horrible to me, because when I'm working out, I don't even like it when the instructor talks too much. So if the instructor is like yelling at me throughout the class, I don't want anything to do with it. I took a kickboxing class where the instructor would like yell at me every time I stopped. I never went back. Don't make it a stressful situation for me. If I have time to work out, I want it to be at least a little pleasant, right? Anyway, what do you think, Hank? Make your point.
Oh, clearly they're marketing it as sexy boot camp. Is exactly what it looks like. And when I was a senior in high school, you start to get like all these calls from recruiters from the army and the military, because they just have your information from like your public school records or whatever. And everyone's trying to like recruit you to like join the service. And I thought to myself, this is before the whole coming out awakening thing. But I was like, I don't think I would do well in boot camp. I just wouldn't. I would, get down and give me 20. No, you get down and give me 20. Like, Don't you talk to me in that tone of voice. Yes, please, or say please and thank you for God's sake. This is just very rude. I just don't, but it's sexy boot camp. Do you see the guy was like in lipstick, he had his weave on, he looked very nice.
And look, here's the thing, they get turned on by that, right? I don't want to get turned on while I'm working out,
No.
right? Like, I feel like I'd be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Andy, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. I have a hard time with
No
Siri.
pun intended, no pun intended.
Very good. I have a difficult time. I have a difficult time with Siri and the GPS, and she gets condescending and like starts telling me like where to turn and drive, and if I need to make a U-turn or something like that. And I think that if you really want this, I mean, clearly like there's been all these kinds of like alternative workouts.
Yeah.
Anything honestly to get people to get into the gym, though. I think
Yeah,
that's good. If this is what does it for you, then by all means. God, I wish there was something that got me in the gym.
Right, no, I totally agree with you. It's not for everyone, but if you're into it, it's awesome that you have this option available to you. Here's the question, it's a little salacious. Would you rather be the dominator or the submissive in this situation and in the bedroom? Andy, let me start with you.
Definitely the dominator. I think because I saw these people in here and they look miserable.
This and the bedroom?
Well,
It's a two-parter.
A two-parter. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that
Nice.
especially if you work, in your early 20s a lot of times, and thankfully I'm at a point now where I don't have to. We still answer to people, but a lot of times when you're really at the low on the totem pole, you've got like 50 bosses up on top of you telling you. It's an interesting phrasing.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Telling you what to do,
Interesting puns.
above you. And I think that there's a tendency to like grasp for that sort of control again, and I have not lost the control, so I really like having the control. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay, all right. What about you, Hank?
Something to hold on to, Andy. Is that what you're
Look
thinking?
at this guy. Look at this guy. Okay, you share your
This is good.
little fantasies.
I like to be in control for the most part. However, just like Olaf in Frozen, some people are worth melting for. Sometimes I like to be taken care of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hear you.
Except that this video did scare the bejesus out of me. I don't think I would participate in that. I was looking at prices in weeks, and I was like, I can't.
In a workout scenario, I do not want to be submissive. I don't want to be dominated. I want everyone to be equals, including the instructor. I want to learn from you, okay? I don't want to be dominated by you. In work, I like to be the dominant one. Like I make decisions all day long. I like to be a host of a show. Right? I like to take charge. In my personal life and love life, I like to be submissive. I like to sit back and have decisions made for me. Which is funny because a lot of people, like in the show where Christian was on, a lot of people were like, oh, of course Anna would date a guy that she could just walk all over. Stupid comments like that. And I'm like, you guys have no fucking idea, right? So I like the guy to be the dominant one in the relationship.
Oh yes, no, and
It's fun.
I know her boyfriend, and he's a man. He's a man, and treats you very much like a lady. So
He does.
Very sweet.
When I want to be treated like
That's right. That's right.
All right, but I want to give you guys a chance to also chime in on this. Tell me a little bit about your personal lives. I mean, let's talk about the workout element. Do you want to be dominated, or would you rather be the dominant one? And then what about your personal life? I'm always fascinated to see if you are a dominant person or a submissive. Share your stories in the comment section below. We love reading from you. All right, now that does it for the show. We're out of time, but I want to give you guys an opportunity to plug some of the work that you're doing. You guys both have a lot going on. So, you know what, Andy, let's start off with you.
All right. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Riesmeyer. Send all your hate tweets and evil and mean things to me there. I'm also currently producing a show for Aura TV called America Cooks with Chefs, which is a cool, healthy eating, travel food cooking show.
That sounds awesome.
It is. It's great. We're
Yeah.
all over the country eating all kinds of good food. So.
That's like my dream job.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's
Yeah.
great.
Can we come onto the show and do an episode?
Well,
of
we
this
still
and-
have a few
and
left,
eat?
so I mean, perhaps.
That's freaking awesome.
You think I'm playing? I'm coming to eat. No, yeah.
ahead.
I am the executive producer of my Twitter and Instagram accounts. So
Is it
so
honorary,
yeah, it's
you're legitimately the
no.
EP?
I create and produce all the content. So I'm the executive producer of that. As you know, I'm currently on Transparent, which is on Amazon right now. So check it out. Jeffrey Tambor, Amy Landecker. They just got a season 2. So congrats to them.
Yay!
And I just did a small role on Criminal Minds. So just sort of plugging away and I still sporadically make YouTube videos. So for my longtime fans, just check back in whenever the hell you feel like
Damn,
it.
do you, boo? I love it. All right, I'm Anna. You guys know who I am. The Point, the Young Turks. The only real thing I want to plug on the show today is my personal YouTube channel. It's been very active lately, and I love it. So check it out, youtube.com/Ana Kasparian. Please subscribe. Please tell me what you think about the videos. I'm still allowing it to evolve, so your input is always appreciated. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week. What's up, everyone? Welcome to The Point. I'm your host, Ana Kasparian, and it feels so good to be back from our Thanksgiving break. 2 weeks ago, we did a double-decker show, so you've had plenty of content to watch, but we have new and improved videos for you this week, and I can't wait to get to the topics. We're going to talk about the GOP staffer who got into a lot of trouble after she had some negative things to say about the Obama daughters. Also, U.S. Airways kicks off a disruptive pig. No, it was not Glenn Beck or Rush Limbaugh. I'll tell you exactly who or what it was. Also, a cop allegedly shot a female driver in a fit of road rage. 2 Indian women had to fight off harassers on a bus, and no one helped them out. And finally, we're going to end the show by talking about an LA dominatrix who's doing what she can to whip you into shape. But before we get to all of that, let's go ahead and meet our panelists for today. We have 2 returning panelists that I absolutely love. Hank Chen, he is a comedian and an actor who's currently on Transparent on Amazon and just appeared in an episode of Criminal Minds. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. So good to be back.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun.
Oh, it's so much fun.
We also have Andy Riesmeyer. You guys remember him. He is a host and executive producer of Dweebcast on Aura TV.
Vitriol, this blooting that she has done, that everyone will see and everyone will always tie back to her.
I also believe that if you live in a glass house, you shouldn't throw stones. When she was a teenager, she was arrested for shoplifting, okay? None of us would be talking about that if she wasn't a terrible person and decided to attack Barack Obama's daughters on Facebook. Now, here's a question for the story. What's the most classless thing you've ever done? Because look, we're not so innocent. We've done some classless things as well, unless you guys are gonna lie to me and tell me that you haven't. Andy, let me start with you.
I absolutely will lie to you and tell you that I haven't. I mean, I've been on this show enough times that's like, I've told you a lot of classless things that I have done.
Have you?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think I'm that guarded. I mean,
What have you done that's classless?
I really try not to do classless things in the public eye, and I'm going to try to continue to not put something out there so when people Google me, they will find out the horrible classless things that I've done. But I'm a tweet deleter. And so I'll like write something, maybe in a fit of rage, and I think this woman maybe has missed that part of maybe all of us and then you'll say like, oh shit, I gotta get rid of that.
Yep.
There's no way. So
She left it up for a while. She wanted all those likes.
I don't remember what it is either. It's
So
tough.
every once in a while, I get a little stuttery.
Yeah, it's okay.
As long as-
Well, I'm really excited.
Well, he's an executive producer, so you got that correct. As long as you remember that,
Yes,
then
yeah.
we're all good.
Very true. All right, so let's get to the very first topic. I love this topic because it shows you that in some cases, adults act like absolute children. Now, a GOP staffer, in fact, the communications director for a representative in Tennessee by the name of Stephen Fincher, just put her foot in her mouth after she put up a Facebook post basically disparaging Obama's daughters, okay, Sasha and Malia. Now, Sasha and Malia did not ask to be part of the White House or the First Family, but nonetheless, every once in a while, they have to attend White House events, like the annual turkey pardon, which I find absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe we do that. But nonetheless, they attended the turkey pardon. They were dressed extremely modestly, and they didn't look like they were having all the fun in the world, but Elizabeth Lawton, who is this communications director, took to Facebook to say some pretty nasty things about the girls. Here is her exact statement. Dear Sasha and Malia, I get you're both in those awful teen years, but you're a part of the First Family. Try showing a little class. At least respect the part you play. Then again, your mother and father don't respect their positions very much, or the nation for that matter. So I'm guessing you're coming up a little short in the, quote, good role model department. Nevertheless, stretch yourself. That's a really weird phrase. Rise to the occasion. Act like being in the White House matters to you. Dress like you deserve respect, not a spot at the bar. And certainly don't make faces during televised public events. Now, 3 days after she posted that, she actually went on NBC, to let everyone know that she is in the process of resigning. So she was forced to resign, obviously. And what amazes me about this story is that she's a communications director. As a communications director, she thought that it was totally okay to attack young girls on her Facebook account. I mean, I think it's pathetic, but I want to know what you guys think. Hank, let me start with you. Make your point.
I think all of her grammatical errors is reason alone, reason enough to let her go. Did you see that run-on sentence? It was like on and on and on. And in fact, I have a theory that the Republican Party is masking this as like, oh, we actually agree with you and you're fine, but we're going to scapegoat you and get you out because you're actually a shitty writer. So I
That could be it.
I don't think that they have a Sasha Malia issue. I think they have a communications issue problem with her.
I mean, when you think about all of the different stupid things that have been said during debates in Congress, I mean, this isn't the first time a Republican or even a Democrat has said something incredibly stupid.
Foot-and-mouth syndrome.
Absolutely.
Totally.
And it's kind of rare to see someone pay the consequences for it, and I'm glad that it happened in this case, because as a communications director, you need to be smarter than that.
Yeah.
Andy, what about you? Make your point.
First of all, on behalf of turkeys everywhere, I would like to express my regret and sorrow that you would not view the presidential pardon as something that would be so important to our history. I guess we'll get past that, though. The thing that I think is most sort of fascinating about this is that, indeed, she's a communications director, so you would think that someone like that would have the wherewithal to know that posting something, I mean, really just stupid, would get her in a lot of trouble. Also, for the rest of her life now, when she is Googled, when someone wants to hire her for a job, it's going to be this piece of stupid